Hi, Bobster's Old Guy Geek, and today we're going to talk about the NesBox Emulator. There's been an update released. In case you're not familiar with it, it's an emulator that allows you to run your old NES games or your old Super Genesis games and some others. But the important thing about today is that they've released an update that allows you to use an Xbox controller with it. So if you have one of these already hooked up to your PC, you can play your game just as you would if you're playing on your NES. So with that, let's go take a look. Okay, you can get a wired controller or a wireless. I'm using a wireless. They'll have an adapter or something like that, or like this with the older ones. But you can find one with a receiver already comes with it. If you go down here, first of all, it should be a 360 controller. If you click here, and it doesn't really say here that it comes with a controller. So what I did was I went down to the reviews section and found out about asking questions about it and see if anybody says it came with it or not. So here I am down here, and I went to the questions section. Product description again doesn't have anything. Manufacturer information, nothing here on the list. It doesn't say it comes with the controller. You would think a wireless mouse would, but a wireless controller would, but you need to get the receiver. Scrolling down even further, nothing for sure. So as I usually on Amazon, I go down here and look for questions, and that's not it there. And there's the one there, the receiver. And if I looked here and I looked at some others, this one does come with it. Now I'm putting the link for this one in the description of the video, but do your own research because things could change. I'm not taking responsibility in case somebody doesn't get one. You need to complain to Amazon or the seller. So with that, now that we know what controller we're going to get, let's go ahead and hook it up and see how we can get this thing to work. Okay, to go get the app, it used to be called the NesBox Emulator, but it's now the Universal app. I just click on the store icon at the bottom, come up here and just type in, you can still type in NesBox because it'll still come up. So let's go ahead and type the full name in, hit enter, and you'll see it now called the Universal Emulator here. And you'll see that once you click on it and get to the actual page, you'll see down on the left or right there it says available on PC, mobile, and just about anything else, even the holographic. So you just click on free after you're comfortable with that and download the app and it'll install. I'm going to bypass that here real quick. So once it changes and downloads, and it comes up, you have a launch button, but rather than launching it from here, we're going to go ahead and set it up on the start menu. So instead of clicking that, we'll just go up here and close this down, go down over to the start menu, and you should see it here in a recently added. I'm going to go ahead and drag it. I can say pin to start to, or I can drag it and put it somewhere on your screen, and basically we're ready to go. So as you can see, it's named Universal Emulator, and the first thing you see is it's got all these public domain, these free ones that are available. They're out in the public domain. You don't have to own the ROMs in order to play them. If you go to the upper left, you'll see the hamburger menu of all the Universal apps has. And you can click on your library. You can look at your save games, which we'll go talk about. But here's your settings to where you can change your keyboard or your Xbox controller settings to something that you can configure for yourself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and launch the game named Chase, and you press the start button on your controller, and it's basically a poor man's Pac-Man, I guess you could call it, and you have to go around and capture these coins and without getting beat up. But the controller works smoothly with it, everything works very nicely, and you can just play that one. That's level 2 gets a little more difficult. So anyways, that's just one game that comes with the app. So here's another public domain game that we're going to play. It's basically an air-sea battle if you're used to one of the old Atari names. This one's called Airwolf. And we go in here and we press the start key. Now not all games work with a controller and not all games have sound. Depends upon the ROM. But in this case you can't hear it, but this had sound and I am controlling it with the controller. So it works as well. While you're in the middle of a game, you can press the start key and it'll bring up the menu down here, which allows you to hit the save button and that'll save your progress and you can recall it later on from the main menu. So you have a restore feature. So that's the public domain game. So let's go take a look at how you can go ahead and download some ROMs. Now if you search on the internet, there's plenty of places that provide ROMs. This one here is called Public Domain Home, and there's all sorts of different ones here. I'm not going to use this one, I'm just showing you that there's other ones out there. I'm going to show you one coming up here that's the best as far as source, but you got to be very watchful that doesn't try to install extra software. So I'm going to step you through that. So here we are, we're going to go to freeroms.com and we're going to go take a look here. And I'm going to go ahead and download the sort of king of all ROMs you want for your NES, and that's Super Mario Brothers. I went ahead and found it, and I'm going to say download. Now be aware what you're downloading is not just the ROM. You're getting an quote-unquote installer, which is going to try to install other software. So depending upon what your browser you're using and how you have it set up, you'll get the prompt at the bottom or not. It'll automatically save it to a directory perhaps. But what you have to understand is you're saving an executable file. It's an installer. It's not just a ROM, but it's an installer and it has these other programs built into it as well. So we're going to take a look at that. Now I have a drive dedicated to games, so what I've done here is I've browsed over here and I'm creating a game just for my NES ROMs so I can put them in there. So that'll take me a minute to do that. So once I have installed it and clicked on it to run, it's going to bring up this dialog box here. And this is where we're going to have to be very careful. So it's preparing your installation, please wait. And what it's doing is setting up to install your software. So it's extracting it and now it's going to say, oh look, go ahead and install this. Well, it's not doing just that. Okay, you have to read very carefully here and what your agreement says in step 1 and what it's installing. So here's where it gets tricky. When you click accept, you do not want to use this express installation here. You don't want to use that. You want to go down here to advanced installation down below. So I'm going to click on that, and you want to unclick all these other options that they put down here for you. You don't want to keep any of this stuff unless you want it, but you want to go ahead and uncheck every one of these boxes that are located down here. And that's just the beginning of it. So make sure those are all cleared, okay? And that's okay. And you can go ahead and click on accept. But now you're over here on the Premiere option on the left, which is another piece of software they want you to install. You want to do the same thing. You want to decline that one, skip through all of these. There's another piece of software. Decline that one because you don't want to do the other one. You want to click down here on decline. And once you've declined it, right here, it'll go ahead and install and you can download and save it. So once you've saved it, it's a zip file, and you're going to want to extract that zip file and pull out the ROM. So if you just double click on it to open up and look at the zip file, or we can say extract all, and you'll find out it creates it. There it is, Super Mario Brothers. So I'm going to do a little housekeeping here. I want to go and move this over to where I created the my NES ROMs directory. So I grab it and slide and save it over there. Now it's saved there for future use. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and go in here and crank her up, and we'll get to play a little bit. So here we are in Super Mario Brothers, and we're going to go ahead and just choose a simple game to play, and you'll see that everything's working as advertised, and we can do all that. So we can watch it for a minute here. So you can go in and configure your controller to be different. You can keyboard as well, so you can relearn all those moves you had back in Super Mario days. But don't forget, the controller configurations last for all the games, not just that one game. So be careful how you select it. But there you are, a lot of retro fun with the Universal Emulator for NES and Super Genesis.